Hello and welcome to this week's mini lecture on alcohol. Many of the statistics that I will be reviewing with you today come from the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, which I included in the Moodle website for your review. So we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of extra information on alcohol to supplement the reading material that you've already reviewed. So as you know, alcohol is found in our history as far back as 7000 BC, and there is a rich cultural history that goes along with it throughout all the cultures in the world. But also, as you know, it is one of the world's most abused substances. About 88,000 deaths in the United States occur annually as a result of alcohol abuse or alcohol-related diseases such as cirrhosis of the liver. In 2012, 3.3 million alcohol-related deaths were reported worldwide. Alcohol-related deaths are the third leading preventable cause of death in the United States, the first being tobacco and the second being poor diet and nutrition. In 2014, alcohol-impaired driving accounted for 9,967 deaths in the United States, 31% of all fatal car crashes. So how does alcohol relate to being a college student? In 2015, 58% of full-time college students aged 18 to 24 reported drinking alcohol in the past month. 37% reported binge drinking within the past month, and 12.5% reported heavy alcohol use. And those are just the reported numbers. So there are consequences of abusing alcohol. Some of the college student-related consequences are as follows. Annually, there are about 1,825 alcohol-related deaths within the college student population, full-time, age 18 to 24. And that includes injuries from motor vehicle accidents. 696,000 college-age students report being assaulted by another student who was using alcohol. 97,000 students report sexual assault and date rape in alcohol-related scenarios. 20% of college students qualify for alcohol use disorder, and 1 in 4 college students report suffering academic consequences as a result of abusing alcohol. So clearly there are repercussions to alcohol abuse. So what is alcohol use disorder? Alcohol use disorder is defined by the DSM-5 as a chronic, relapsing brain disease characterized by an impaired ability to stop or control alcohol use despite adverse social, occupational, and/or health consequences. It can range from mild to severe. In the DSM-4, alcohol use disorder was separated into 2 separate disorders, alcohol abuse and alcohol dependency. In the DSM-5, they're now combined into one single category, alcohol use disorder, with a range of mild to severe. So what is binge drinking? Binge drinking is defined as having 4 or more drinks for women and 5 or more drinks for men within a 2-hour period within the last month. And heavy use, an example of heavy use would be someone who binge drank 5 or more days within the past month. So what is some of the brain science involved in alcohol use and addiction? As you know, first a person drinks alcohol, and it is absorbed into the stomach and then later the intestines. About 20% in the stomach and 80% through the intestines is absorbed into the bloodstream, metabolized by the liver, sent to the brain, which then creates a dopamine release. this dopamine release peaks in about 30 minutes and doesn't occur again for the remainder of that drinking period. So as alcohol creates this release, the brain experiences it as a reward. And then they crave more alcohol because they're craving the continued dopamine release. But that doesn't happen. When a person continues drinking beyond that first 30 minutes, the alcohol actually becomes a depressant rather than releasing a dopamine rush. So this process occurs within the mesolimbic pathway that's located within the brainstem. Within this area, there is the ventral tegmental area, which connects and projects to the nucleus accumbens. So what happens is a person drinks alcohol, it's absorbed into the bloodstream, reaches the brain, reaches this ancient part of the brain that's responsible for survival, and creates a dopamine rush. The dopamine rush that occurs in the mesolimbic pathway, which is also known as the dopaminergic pathway, is experienced as a reward, a positive reinforcement. So this part of the brain was originally responsible for our survival and our evolution as a species. So when humans were involved in something that helped to propagate their survival, such as food, water, and sex, dopamine was released and experienced as a reward to encourage that those behaviors continued. So the problem with this part of the brain now is that when a person ingests a substance that creates a dopamine rush, it is processed in the same dopaminergic pathway that dopamine is processed for survival. So our brains at that point don't distinguish between the dopamine rush that is for survival and the dopamine rush that was elicited by a substance. We'll talk about this in greater detail later throughout the semester. However, I thought it was important to at least have a brief overview of that process as we begin to learn more about each individual substance. So while each addictive substance is different, and each substance has their own unique set of physical effects and withdrawal symptoms, and they all affect the VTA, the ventral tegmentum area, we could say that addiction to substances is more of an addiction to the dopamine rush. If you have any questions on this subject, feel free to comment or to create a discussion of your own or to send me an email. I hope you enjoyed this information and that it was exciting and informational for you. Have a great day.